The hood always look pretty in the daytime. So I'm headed to my son's school, PTA. It's usually good news. Hopefully I get some good news. This has been a very interesting year for my son. But the devil's still a lie. He a whole lie. But I just wanted to ask my YouTubers, why is it that in the hood specifically, when you're a single parent, people always assume that you and your child got the same last name? Like, yeah, I'm a single parent, but I'm not a Bruley. My son is, right? I'm a Vouse. That's my father's last name, right? And my mom, they're married. But even if they got divorced, I was still, because my father's in my life, and that's my belief, his father's in his life, and so I gave him, the name. So, but people always, kids, adults, why do we assume that the child just gone? Because to me, that's indicating, I think I was applying for Medicaid or something back in the days, and they was like, you have to put an explanation as to why you and your son have different names. I'm not married to his father, and his father's in his life. They like, well, you got to write that down. I'm like, what? That was 15 years ago. I don't know if you still got to do that now with people who have babies. I don't know, but yeah, like, why don't we just assume that, and I think that's like a old thought process. But I personally get annoyed when people say Miss Brute. Like, no, I never was. I don't want to be. Okay? I'm MS period Vouse. Right? The name I was born with, that's my father's name. And if the Lord spares life and allow me to... If I get a husband, it really depends on his last name. If his last name is like Smith or Brown, I don't want it. It gotta be like it gotta be a sexy name. Like, like it gotta be like a French or Spanish name. I don't know. Like, it depends on the name. Because you could get married and you don't have to take the person's name, which I didn't know that until like recently. It's tradition to take on somebody's name, which I explained that, like, we as women in 2025, we don't have our own name. It's either our father, grandfather, some man in a lineage, so I would want the liberty of keeping my last name, unless if I really like do last name, I don't know, but just like my liberty, my own independence, like nothing personal. We married, but I would like to keep my name. But yeah, why do we do that? Those are my thoughts.